Hello and welcome to a 360-degree virtual reality video tour around the Ards Peninsula and North Down in County Down. We're going to be tracing the legacy of Ulster-Scots settlers in this area over the last 400 years, thinking about their folklore, their history, their heritage and their stories. The entire scene that you're looking at has been filmed in 360 degrees, and that means that you can look all around with me. You can use your mouse at home or a VR headset to explore. And what a magnificent place this is to explore. We're standing on top of a hill at Ardkeen, which means the pleasant height. And if you look to my left, you'll see a map of exactly where we are. So now, let's look all around us. What a beautiful and inspiring place. Out there to the north, we can see Scrabo Hill at the head of Strangford Lough. Beyond that, Cave Hill in Belfast. Looking south towards the mouth of Strangford Lough, we can see the profile of the Mountains of Mourne sweeping down to the sea. Behind me, looking eastwards, the Irish Sea is on the far side of the peninsula, with Scotland just beyond that. And behind you, looking out west, this is Strangford Lough, an area of outstanding natural beauty with all of its little islands. And we're on top of a hill, a man-made hill, a motte, M-O-T-T-E. This was established here by the Anglo-Normans who arrived here in the late 12th century, a family called the Savages. And on this hill, this earthen fortification, they had their castle. If you look to my right, you'll see an artist's impression of how this might have looked. And now look down. We still have some of the ancient stonework of that old castle on the hill. There's something so exciting about this old holdfast. Imagine the centuries of history that have happened on this very site. It was a descendant of the Savage family, a man called George Francis Savage Armstrong, who probably explored this area in the 19th century. His father had been an Armstrong from Scotland, one of the ancient border reiver clans, and his mother had been the daughter of the rector of Glastrey, just on the far side of the peninsula, near Ballyhalbert, Cloghy, over on the Irish Sea. George was very close to his mother, and whenever she died, he made it almost his life's work to go around the Ards Peninsula, the North Down area, collecting some of the stories, the ballads, the songs, the folklore that she would have shared with him in his childhood. Much of that was written in the Ulster-Scots dialect, what George Francis Savage Armstrong described as the Downshire brogue. If you look to my left, you'll see a portrait of George himself. Now, George decided to publish all of these songs and ballads, which he had collected and indeed written some of them in a book. In 1901, he brought out the Ballads of Down, and if you look to my right, you can see a copy of the cover of that old book. Much of the material in it is written in Ulster Scots. Ulster Scots is a way of speaking that you will still find right along the northeastern and eastern seaboard of Northern Ireland to this day. In the 1960s, there was an academic study undertaken to look at distinguishing markers or characteristics of Ulster Scots. So you'll find, for example, a very Germanic "ech" sound in words like loch, or dochter, or nicht, or licht. You'll hear verb sounds like a dinny, a heady, a canny, a wolny. You'll hear pronunciations like fut, or a bin, or gid, or coohus. All these lovely Scottish words and pronunciations which are still so common hereabouts today. Many of the poems in George's collection, Ballads of Down, are written in the Ulster Scots. And soon we're going to travel down the side of this drumlin to an old ruined church where George now rests in peace to hear some of the poetry written in Ulster Scots. So take a last look around this very beautiful location, Ardkeen, one of the highest drumlins in the Ards Peninsula, and then you can join me at the old graveyard. So now we have made our way down the hill to this very atmospheric and beautiful old graveyard, standing here on the shores of Strangford Lough on the slope of the drumlin. The ancient perimeter wall is crumbling. The gravestones, lichen-covered, are all higgledy-piggledy, and there's a marvellous sense of calm and peace. This is a very inaccessible place nowadays. You can't drive here. You have to tramp across the fields. And George Francis Savage Armstrong tramped across these fields in the 1800s to find the burial place of his ancestors. The family vault is just behind me here, this one surrounded by the railings. And whenever he came here, he found the place in a pretty ruinous condition even then. If you look to my left, you'll see an old drawing that shows GFSA exploring this site in the 1800s. Together with the minister at the time, he tried to restore the place, to fix it up a little bit. Rabbits had been rooting around and unearthing the bones of the ancient people who lie buried here. Some of these headstones date from the 1600s, the 1700s, then the 1800s. I want to read you a poem which George Francis Savage Armstrong wrote, set on this very hill. Now, it's called The Haunted Hill, and there's some spooky goings-on. This is the book, The Ballads of Down. Let me read you this in the beautiful Ulster-Scots tongue of the time. The Haunted Hill. Old Nancy Breen, her skinny hand laid cold on Donald's shoulder. "I seen your doom yestreen," she cried, "where turf and cinders smoulder. I seen your doom, young Donald Greer, within the fire to warn me. For I and I, ye've loved tae weel to mock my years and scorn me. Then, dinna cross Ardkeen at nicht, when winter's murk and dreary. Mang a' the lonesome nooks and Ards, by nicht there's nane sae eerie. Thon Castle Hill is haunted ground, by elves and ghasts it's guarded. There spectre chieftains pace the fields, o'er which lang syne they lorded. Sir Rowland frae his grave upleaps, a helmed and sworded shadow. Dark Raymond mounts his spectral steed and scours the circling meadow. From whar on high the castle stood, there comes a soon o' revel, and peals o' ghastly laughter ring around the stormy level. And if ye seen or hear nae these, you'll see the kirkyard glowing. Each grave wi' gruesome lichts will gleam, its dismal shape but showing. You'll hear the spectral bugle blow, tae Darfu battle cheering. You'll see the spectral huntsman's ban around the door careering. Young Donald laughed with cruel scorn. Gang hame to Portavogie. I'm nae the lad to cower with fear at curse of witch or bogie. This nicht, the owl kirk's ruined wall, I'll climb athut a lather, and where the conies root the graves, at Deedmon's banes I'll gather. At midnight came, and Donald rose, and through the gloom he wended. The moon was gone, the rueful wind wailed like a babe untended. But never back to friends or hame came Donald on the morrow. His parents searched with straining sight, and wept in hopeless sorrow. The Castle Hill they searched in vain, dry moat and ditch and dingle, and stranded hulk and stunted thorn and dorn shore's weedy shingle. Till last the old kirk door they broke, and there a corpse they found him, cowled as the Deedmon's banes that lay in moulder and dust around him. That's a very atmospheric poem set on this exact location and written in the beautiful Ulster-Scots dialect of this part of the Ards Peninsula. I hope that has maybe inspired you to come and visit here yourself, or to explore more of the writings of George Francis Savage Armstrong. Take a last look now around this very beautiful haunted graveyard, and then maybe you'd like to join us in some more episodes in this series of Ulster-Scots virtual tours.